Hello, my name is Craig Hayes, and I'm Director of Admissions Operations at the University of Oklahoma. We're glad that you are watching this session. That means, unfortunately, you weren't able to join us in person for Crimson Summit, but we're glad that you have a chance to learn about admissions and recruitment at the University of Oklahoma. And I'm here with my colleague, Morgan. She's also my friend, but my colleague, Morgan, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Thanks, Craig. Hi, everyone. My name is Morgan Brammer, and I serve as the Director of Recruitment. And I like to think of Craig and I as partners in crime in this whole operation of admission. So we're really excited to be with you all today. And we're going to go over what OU admissions is, the process, how we take applications, what we're looking at, what we're looking for, so that you can best advise the students that you're working with. So let's get started and let's hop right in. First and foremost, there are three ways that your students can apply to OU as a first-time freshman. One being the OU application that we host ourselves, two being the common application, and three being the SOAR Coalition for College application. Do we look at all applications differently? We absolutely do not. All of them are evaluated the exact same way. What I will say is if you are wanting to apply via Coalition and Common app, those are easy apps for you to apply on if you're applying to multiple schools. The OU application is just for OU alone. That's also where our transfer students will apply. So they will go to apply.ou via our OU application.
Let's talk a little bit about dates and deadlines. So application is already open for students who are looking to apply for transfer student, for instance, for spring 2023. But for our first-time freshmen, also open is fall 2023 application. They could have started that as early as August 1, and we actually have over 2,000 applications already submitted. Here we are in September. October 1, the free application for federal student aid opens. You all know that, but help us remind students, right, for them and their families to go ahead and take care of that. And for us, a big date, I really believe, is November 1. Maybe if there's one date we would ask you to remember, it's early action. It's apply early, because that maximizes your students' opportunity for admission, but also for housing, for need-based financial aid, for all of our freshman scholarship. Any way you look at it, it's to the student's advantage to apply by November 1.
And Craig, did you want to touch on December 15th?
Students can apply all the way through December 15th, and we're still going to consider them for freshman scholarship. For that matter, they can apply all the way until February 1 for admission, but that is not the best time to apply. We'll accept applications through there, and I'll let Morgan take it from here.
It's really, really important to have students apply by November 1 this year, particularly because our housing application is going to open on October 17th. And they will be using those applications to place students as to where they're going to go based on when they applied to OU and when they deposit to OU. You'll get more information on that soon. Don't want to confuse you too much, but that's why November 1 is also incredibly important. If you don't like free money, or if your students don't want free money, they can apply by February 1st. April 30th is the final day that we will take updated ACT and SAT scores if a student chooses to submit that score for OU to review in their admissions application or for scholarship purposes. And then May 1st, I always like to call it the commitment day to us. For some of our students, it is breakup day, and it's incredibly uncomfortable if we have to call you on the phone. I think we feel like uncomfortable 8th graders being like, do you still want to hang out with us? But May 1, you will have to tell all the schools that you applied to. Your students will have to tell all the schools they applied to as to where they want to go and where they're deciding to commit to.
So you can tell those other universities, sorry, we chose the University of Oklahoma. We know your students have great options, but hopefully they pick us.
That's right.
This is how we make admission decisions. We're going to talk a little bit more about test optional here in a moment, but I will go ahead and shout that out right now that the University of Oklahoma's test optional. We'll tell you what it means specifically here in a second. But these are the factors we're going to look at. So we have a holistic review. Some people say, well, that just means you're doing whatever you want in the back end. No, that doesn't. That means that we have a very specific kind of scoring system that we look at to determine who should be admitted. And when we say who should be admitted, it isn't picking and choosing which students we like or don't like. We are admitting students who we are certain can be academically successful at the University of Oklahoma. So all of these go into making the best possible decision, not only for the university, but as we believe for the student and their family. So we're going to look at academic rigor first and foremost. So if your school ranks, we're going to look at rank in class, we'll look at GPA, we'll look at some of those numbers. If your student sends an ACT or SAT score, we're going to look at that more in a minute. All of the numbers, but we know your student isn't a number. And so we're going to also look at other detailed factors, like for instance, on the transcript itself, we're going to look at which courses your student has chosen to take. So it matters to us when students challenge themselves academically. So we're going to look for those honors, college prep, whatever you call them at your school. Maybe it's pre-AP or AP or it's IB or whatever that looks like. We're going to look to make sure they've taken the most rigorous courses possible, because that will help them be successful here. We're going to look at their engagement too, so activities and involvements, honors and awards. We're going to look at work experience. Make sure your students, maybe they weren't in a bunch of clubs because they work 25 hours a week. That's part of their story. We need to see all of those things so we get a sense of their engagement, as we call it. Volunteerism, community service, all of those things ought to be listed. An essay, yes, they get to write one. They're so excited. But this is also a way for them to tell their story to us. And then a letter of recommendation from some trusted person like you, probably. Or if you want to spread the love, right, you could tell them, ask the principal, ask your coach, ask a teacher. We'll accept up to 3 letters of recommendation, especially if a student is applying test optional. But any student in general, I'd say make sure you send letters of recommendation, because they actually receive points in our holistic scoring system for sending letters.
That's right. And I always do tell our students, I'm like, make sure whoever's writing your letter of recommendation that they actually really do enjoy you or enjoy having you as a student. We've received letters of recommendation before that are not that, which is quite a treat to read. So that's our holistic review process. It takes about 4 to 6 weeks to hear back. If your students are applying right now in September or October, once we get into that November and December month, it will take a longer time to hear back, because guess what? Everybody else decided to apply then. And that's the big kind of volume. And a lot of colleges across the nation are saying, hey, apply by this date, apply by this date, apply by this date. So everybody's trying to hit those deadlines.
You mean students wait till the last minute? No way.
Sometimes they do, Craig.
Okay.
Just
Maybe
sometimes
so.
they do.
It's
And that
possible.
just means it'll take a little bit longer to hear back from us, because we truly do value what students put forth. And so every single application gets 2 reads by 2 humans. And so that's what matters in this process. So when we say holistic, we really do stand behind that, because students have really good stories to tell. So let's talk about test optional, as Craig mentioned. We are test optional. What does that actually mean? When a student applies to the University of Oklahoma, they will look at their application. They will log into the application portal, fill out their name, their address, all that fun stuff, and they will answer a very important question. They will either opt into saying, I do want my ACT and SAT scores used in the evaluation of my admission application, or I do not want my ACT or SAT scores used in the evaluation of my admission application. I want to be very clear with this. Every single university puts together a test optional game plan that is different from another university. This is OU's, okay? If you show us the score, if you say, I do want my test scores, we can't unsee that test score, ethically speaking, okay? If your student decides, hey, I don't love my test score right now, tell them to apply test optional. And if they get admitted, they can always send us scores later for more scholarship
That's right.
opportunities and things like that. But what I always tell our students is, be mindful of your score. If you have low sub scores that are in the teens or things like that, that may not be the best showcasing of your academic experience or your book of work as it relates to your academics. So be very careful as you navigate that with students. I always err on the side of caution. So, we just can't unsee things. And I know Craig works on our operations side of things. So do you want to add anything there, Craig?
I was just going to say, for instance, if you, some of your high schools, especially in Oklahoma, will put test scores on the transcript, and you may be worried about that, for instance. But if your student says, I don't want my scores used, someone on our team before the review process actually redacted those test scores. So
Right.
we see a transcript that has a big black box and those are blanked out, so we can't see them because we mean it.
Right.
If you say I want to be test optional and I don't want my scores used, we're not going to look at them. And so the one thing we also remind students, so we don't want to scare anyone in any way, but our average ACT, SAT over time has been around the upper 25, 26 ACT, SAT equivalent mark. And so again, that's not us telling you, unless you have a 26, you shouldn't apply using your scores. We just want to give people an overall sense of what we
That's
see
right.
in the admissions process.
That's right. And we just allowed them to tell their story academically. If they like their score, tell us about their score. If they don't like their score, don't tell us about your score yet. Okay. You can keep retesting through April 30th too for more scholarship opportunities, which is where majority of our scholarships do reside. We do have test optional scholarships for students, but those aren't publicized on our website. So I hope that clarifies test optional, because we always do get quite a few questions surrounding that particular policy, but it's been great for access. It's been great for allowing
Yes.
students to feel like OU is not just a dream, it's actually a reality. And I love that we stand behind that as a university.
Yeah. Let's talk about types of decisions that your students can receive. So there's some students who maybe for a lack of a better way to put it are directly admitted. We do their scoring, they go through our review process, and there's no academic concern and they're offered admission. Then there's a group of students who are admitted with support, is the way we would call it. So there are some students who are admitted via what we call sooner success. And so that's where students are going to take a Foundations to College Learning course in their first semester to help with this transition, because we believe that extra support and that small class in this particular case with someone who kind of watches out for them in that first year and that first semester especially is very important. Some students are admitted via our Sooner Rose program, which is in conjunction with Rose State that offers courses on our campus. So that's especially students who need to take developmental math or developmental English or reading for some reason, if they assess into those courses. And so those are taught by Rose State here at OU though. So everyone, even in the Sooner Rose program, they have the same freshman experience as anyone else. No one has any idea how they were admitted. So those are a couple of categories there. And then the ones that we don't enjoy, and I'm sure you don't either, some students are waitlisted. So this last year, what, Morgan, we had 21,500 plus applications for this freshman class. Not everyone is going to gain admission. It's competitive business. And so some students are waitlisted and we're looking for additional information. We're going to talk about that in a second. But then some students we believe can't be successful based on our review. This isn't a huge group of students, but if we think a student cannot be successful, we will deny admission.
So in terms of the waitlist, we want to break that out because a lot of students, I think, take waitlist as an immediate no. And a waitlist is just saying, hey, tell me a bit more. What we're meaning by that is, first and foremost, if a student is interested in OU and is waitlisted, tell them to accept their spot on the waitlist. That tells us that you still want to be here and that OU is still on your radar. Should spots become available or should you submit updated credentials? We have that yes from you. Secondly, and most importantly, students always ask, well, what should I submit on my behalf to make myself stand out more? More often than not, when students are waitlisted, it's because of their academic record or their coursework, or maybe, gosh, we had a rough, junior semester, or, we need to update that 7th semester transcript. So send that in to us on a student's behalf. A lot of you will send in mid-year reports. If a student is interested in OU, we will need an updated transcript and or an updated test score if they applied with a test score, if that's what's holding them back. And we'll be very candid about that. We don't hide behind any of that. We have ACs that are trained on how to have those careful conversations with students, because it is tender and it kind of it hits the ego a little bit when you do get that waitlist notification, but we want to make sure we handle that with care. So they need to accept their spot on the waitlist first and foremost. Secondly, tell us what's going on, keep us updated. And they can also send in letters of recommendation to speak on their behalf, but those don't speak over academic coursework in that case. So the updated transcript and test score are going to be integral in that process.
So I think a lot of that is this expression of continued interest. So when they do the things we ask them to do, that immediately improves their opportunity. So I don't want to be flippant about that and say everyone who does these two things
Sure.
gets offered admission. Certainly not. But these things will absolutely put them in the best possible position. So thank you for sharing that information with your students.
And obviously, the next thing that we want to celebrate is admission, right? That's the most exciting piece. So when a student is admitted to the University of Oklahoma, they will go to oubound.ou.edu. This is the one-stop shop portal, as I like to call it. Everything a student needs to do is in this portal. Depositing, the housing application, signing up for camp, shot records, applying for honors college, whatever is left, even events that apply to them, we will put them in their portal. It is tailored to their experiences. So make sure they go there, accept their spot by depositing their $250 enrollment commitment, get those next steps done, and we will list those in order and put little check boxes next to them. I know for me, I love a good checklist. So Craig's laughing because he knows I put check boxes next to all of our staff agendas.
It's true.
But it's important, right? And parents are a part of that process too. So if you have students that are admitted to OU, tell them to include their parents in this process to keep them posted on, here's what we got to do next. Let's make sure we get this covered, and keep moving forward through the process so you can get your bottom in a seat starting in August.
We've talked a lot about freshman admission, but we want to finish up with some transfer admission information. We know that not every student who earns an OU degree starts here as a first-time freshman. And look, that's okay. We literally don't have space for everyone who wants to be here, who might get admitted. And there are many students that for very good reasons choose to go elsewhere first. They have great options, and some students change their mind. Whatever the case might be, we're there for them too. So this isn't freshman or bust. We have an entire transfer team, admissions counselors who are dedicated to work with all of our students who may have credit that they've earned from another college or university before they apply to us, and huge numbers. Lots of students who transferred OU, so there's no stigma attached, right? This is some way that we want to help, and we could talk a little bit about deadlines and how we walk through students through that process.
So a lot of our transfer students will start in the fall as they want to complete those other semesters or get a full year at another institution. So March 1st is going to be that priority deadline for fall transfer students if they are looking to come to the University of Oklahoma in fall. November 1st is going to be that priority deadline for our spring transfer students. So if they want to come in spring and wrap up another semester at their transfer institution, they can do all that. We do have a dedicated transfer team to this process because these students need very specific documents, whether it's showing courses in progress, showing your grades, or if you are a recent graduate of high school, but you took a semester at another university, they will help guide you through all the paperwork that you need. And you can email them at transfer@ou.edu for any questions you may have surrounding that process.
Yeah, and then most students immediately want to know, well, how do I get in? So I think the easiest thing to remember is what we call assured admission. So regardless of high school credentials, because this is a big question everyone asks us. Okay, wait, but my test score or my GPA in high school was like this, and I'm coming from another university. Look, it doesn't matter to us. You all probably know State Regents policy as well as we do it. Once a student has taken 24 credit hours at an accredited institution of higher education, then that student, when they look to transfer to the university, we no longer have to look at any of their high school credentials. So once a student has earned 24 hours, so this is earned hours, non-remedial at any college or university, and assuming they have at least a 2.5 GPA that they're transferring in, they are assured admission to the University of Oklahoma. So out of the 170 plus degree programs we offer, this works for almost every single one of them. Now, there are a few exceptions. So engineering and journalism and business. So there are 4 areas that have some requirements that are above a 2.5. But to be admitted generally to the University of Oklahoma as a transfer student, as long as you have 24 hours and at least a 2.5, you can come to the University of Oklahoma. there are degree programs that will work for you, and we look forward to helping you in that process. I keep saying you're the counselors, but students you work with, so that they can, they know what's next, and we will support them and whatever makes sense for them to reach their goals. And we'd love for them to end up earning a degree from the University of Oklahoma.
And it really does matter. My brother is a transfer student too, and he thrived at OU. So there's resources in place to make OU feel like home. And I think that matters. And we've got a great team that onboards them. So with that, we want to thank you so much for either if you attended or you didn't attend. We hope this recording is helpful. You can reach out to Craig or myself by emailing us at admissions.ou.edu. But we are sincerely grateful for the work that you put into the future, which is our students, and the time that you take to dedicate to them and go over transcripts and go over what's next with them. That means a great deal. And so we hear it on the other end as to the impact that you make on these students, and we read it in their stories. So we're honored that we got to be with you all today.
Yes, thank you so much. I know people, a lot of times we're talking about the support that you give students and the support that we're here to give students and their parents and their supporters. But we want you to understand that we're a resource for you as well. So however we can support and help you as you work with students and families and guardians and supporters, make sure that you call on us whenever we can help. And thanks so much for your time.
Absolutely. We'll see you all soon.